Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out of out of the beautiful city of New Orleans. And also, we're on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and the uprntalkradio.com website. And also, you can find this recording at YouTube channel Bart Sharp 1. I invite you to become a subscriber. Put me up in the rankings, so to speak. I love it. It's just such a interesting time. If you're American, you're as you listen to this show live, you're getting ready for Thanksgiving. If you're in Europe or other places, this seems to be a time that we start to go inward. We may be more with family, but more about being internal. And really, this show is a lot about internal power. And I just love it. So, title of the show is Divine Sovereignty. And my guest today, expert in divine sovereignty, is Linda Galvan from Austin, Texas. Hi, Linda.
Hey, Bart, I'm so glad to be here, and I love this topic, and I think it's quite timely. So I'm happy to be talking about divine sovereignty today.
Yes, and I don't have a bio written down, but I've known Linda forever. So I'll just say what I know about her. She's a psychic of magnitude. She was a psychologist at one point, helping people that way, and decided that I really needed to get the rubber on the road, so to speak, and get out there and interact with people in a more meaningful way. Therefore, you started doing energetic clearings, psychic work, you do writing, you do all sorts of classes. You also bring in divine guidance from other sources to help people have guidance with things. It's quite a journey.
It has been. It's been over 15 years of doing this beautiful spiritual energetic work, mainly with women, some men, but mainly with women. And it's been great. I've really loved seeing the transformation that happens when people are ready to make those changes in their life.
Yes, and sometimes, when we're at a level, we need to talk to people that are expanded in different ways. And, I think that's why we have so much about people being life coaches and such, is that they want to expand in various ways and open that container. But when you start talking with people who are intuitive and they are bringing in other sources, it can be a pretty big container.
Yes.
And it really brings us to the topic today of divine sovereignty.
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds really good. What does it exactly mean?
Well, there's your lower consciousness definition of sovereignty, which is, the sovereignty of, let's say, a king over his kingdom, the sovereignty of a government over its people. That's the lower definition of sovereignty. But that's not what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking about is divine sovereignty. Divine sovereignty is what we each are born with as souls. We are born as divinely sovereign being in and of ourselves, meaning that we realize spiritually that our authority comes from within ourselves in connection to the divine. It does not come from the government. It does not come from religion. It does not come from other people. It does not come from anything on the outside of us. So it's kind of like this kind of higher consciousness awakening where you realize, wait a minute, I am divinely in authority over my life. And I don't have to give my power over to anything outside of myself. So when you have that realization, your whole life changes, because at that point, you're not in fear that the systems around you have to function a certain way for you to feel safe. You're safe regardless of whether those systems are functioning or not.
So
going to be important in the future as these systems start to implode and dissolve and new ones start to be built.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point that I don't think a lot of people understand exactly. So I just want to repeat this concept and make sure I hear it right, and the
Yes.
audience might need to hear it again, is that when you are connected to a source within you that's yours, and is that it has this hugeness, this expansiveness to it, and I dare say has a higher power of yourself type of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
you create a reality of internal safety.
Right. Absolutely. And beyond that. So maybe another way to think of it is, I know that you're a follower of the gene keys, gene key 55, the
Yes.
shadow of victimization. Okay, so
Now,
that shadow, go ahead.
let's give a salutation to Richard Rudd,
Yes,
one of our heroes out there that is the author of the Gene Keys. Thank you,
absolutely.
Richard. Please be on the show sometime in the future.
So gene key 55 from the gene keys talks about the shadow of victimization. So another way to think of divine sovereignty is you're not a victim. So that's a simple way to think of it. When you are truly in your divine sovereignty, you are free. You are
Yeah.
not under the control of things outside of yourself. You don't blame the outside world for your issues. You don't, say that the economy is the reason why, I'm suffering financially. You own that you are the great creator of your reality and of your life, and you don't blame and point fingers and say everybody else is the problem, not me. That's you out of divine sovereignty. When you're in your divine sovereignty, you're not a victim, and you are in realization that there is no such thing as victim in the world, that we all are divinely sovereign beings, and we have the ability to create the reality that we choose from our own internal sovereignty, our authority that was given to us by God, creator, source, all that is, whatever you want to call that. So that may be an
Indeed.
easier way to think of it, is that you're not a victim.
Yeah, it's such a bigger picture when you speak of it that way, and that we are connected. And yes, the shit hits the fan for everybody. We all have problems. Being in a divine sovereign place means that you do have challenges and lessons and things that hurt,
Right,
basically.
right. But you don't blame.
However, exactly. What happens when you blame? What's the dynamics of that? What's because that's a big stepping stone.
Oh, it is. It's huge. So when a person is caught in their shadow of blaming, of being the victim, you're automatically giving your power over to whatever you're blaming. So if you're blaming your spouse, if you're blaming the government, if you're blaming the economy, if you're blaming social media, whatever you're blaming, you're literally giving your power over to. A divinely sovereign person doesn't give their power over to anything outside of themselves. They stay centered in their own authority, regardless of what's going on. Because in truth, things happen in life, but there is no blame for it. It just is. Things just happen. And so when you're in your own personal responsibility, that's the big one personal responsibility for what happens in your life, there's no reason to blame anything. You realize, okay, I made those choices, these things happened. So you own what you create. You don't
It,
blame someone for your choices.
it's an opportunity
Yes.
when things happen that are painful on whatever level, emotional, physical, financial. It's an opportunity for you to jump to something. And I don't even think it's like, you know, you really, I don't see it as like, oh, well, a higher power or something is throwing this curveball towards me.
Right.
I don't, personally, I don't believe that. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, that's actually true that a divinely sovereign person doesn't even blame God. Okay, divinely sovereign person realizes that our soul is the authority, and the divine created us as a divine soul, And that's where our authority comes from. We've been given that authority by that which created all things. So no, God's source is not even to blame for what happens. And I know that sometimes you see that where you might not blame the government, you might not blame whatever, but you'll blame God. Like somehow God was the person who, or the thing that, created the bad thing in your life. Again, that's not being sovereign. That's you not taking personal responsibility.
And all of that about that blaming is, and that God does this and stuff, it goes back to another time that has extended over and is still alive today. But I always think of like the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
where something happens and it was, well, that was God's will.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more subtle these days.
Exactly.
We
Well,
don't
it's
deserve that, for example. We don't deserve that, and therefore we must have done something wrong.
right, exactly. Well, that whole idea of original sin, that we were born already screwed up. you know, I mean, it's like, it's so ridiculous nowadays. I mean, I feel like many people have gotten to a point where it's like, okay, that's ridiculous to think that. Because again, to believe that means what? You're giving your power over, that you have no
Yep.
power, that you were already born screwed up. So what's the point? I mean, that right there is, again, that's the systems in the outer world wanting to have control over, or dominion over the collective. And so right now we're going through a major shift on the planet where at one point we did give our power over to systems to protect us. So there was a soul contract at one point on this earth where we said, okay, if we give our power over to government, to religion, etc., it will keep us safe, it will protect us, it will be part of the collective protection of all. And of course we have seen where that has failed. That was part of, let's say, an experiment of humanity.
Yes.
We're now in a new age. We're out of the Piscean age, we're now in the Aquarian age, and we are now here to own our own personal responsibility at this time. So it's about realizing, wait a minute, I can't be giving my divine power over to the outer world to protect me. That's my responsibility to make the wise choices that I need to make in order for me to have the life that I want to have and to experience. And so this is why we're seeing at this time this dissolving of the old systems, because the new earth energy is going to require us, literally require us, to be divinely sovereign in order for us to have a divinely collective sovereign humanity that respects each other as creators, so that we aren't taking power from each other, trying to control each other. All of that is going away over the next several hundred years as we continue to evolve and step into this divine sovereignty.
And this is very much about Aquarian consciousness as we look at it in an astrological perspective.
Exactly.
I always think of this new earth concept, new world, so to speak. And when people speak of it to me, it's almost as if they think it's going to save them.
Right.
And it almost, they're like making these assumptions that an order is going to come in and everybody's going to follow this new order, and that insinuates that another person is going to organize all of this for us, new leadership, new directions. But as you speak of it, and which I agree, this is a very much an internal transformation in the new earth.
Absolutely.
It happens inside.
Yes.
And we vibrate differently.
Exactly. And then that internal vibration creates the outer reality we then experience. So, as more and more people start to awaken to their own divine sovereignty, we will then reach a critical mass, which is required in order for the whole collective to become divinely sovereign. Now, will this happen in our lifetime? Possibly not. We have a ways to go with that, but we're in the process of that transformation. Will our great grandchildren maybe? You know, even our grandchildren, will they start to experience more divine sovereignty on the planet? Probably, because by 2027, there's going to be a whole new type of human being born on the planet that is called Homo Sanctus, the holy human. And that beautiful, powerful, you know, divine next level human is going to be the one that's going to start to really anchor in what we are talking about as new earth, but it's in process. So all of us are kind of like the bridges, we're the in-betweens. We're the ones that are going through all of the major transformation of watching the old dissolve as the new is slowly being built. But it's going to require people of divine sovereignty within themselves to create enough stability on the planet for this to happen.
And it's funny that this is all in description with Richard Rudd's The Gene Keys, the 55th chapter, which is a really prophetic chapter.
Yes.
A book worth buying, everybody. And also, just to let people beware, be aware, and this is the delightful one. Usually when they say be aware, everybody kind of tightens up and gets scared. This is more like, no, awareness feels good.
Exactly.
Getting to higher vibrations feels good.
Exactly.
And so if you're saying, oh, well, darn, we're going to miss it. Well, if you're into divine sovereignty and really feel this internal light, so to speak,
yes,
and you're playing in that light, I haven't had many complaints myself in my own inner dialogue.
Right, exactly. Because when you're truly in your own divine authority, you're right, it does. It feels good because you realize that you truly are free inside yourself. So, regardless of what's going on in the outer world, you still have that divine authority you can listen to when you're in your stillness, and it will guide you through whatever might be going on in the outer world that might seem chaotic. So, your discernment increases. You start to really make decisions not based on fear, but based on true discernment of what's wise in the moment. So whenever we have to take action based on, let's say, something going on in the outer world, it's not coming from this chaotic fear of, oh my God, I'm afraid I got to go do, you know, this crazy thing, you know, such as buy tons of toilet paper during COVID. You know, that's so ridiculous. And it created a lot of chaos because people were not coming from their divine authority. They were coming from a place of fear, which is, of course, is being fed to us by the outer systems because that's how they remain in control of us, is by feeding us all this fear-based nonsense. So a divinely sovereign person doesn't listen to it. I don't pay attention to that.
It's not that other people want to say, oh, we're not going to grow. I think everybody wants to grow. Right. However, some people that feel like they have the best, as we call it, the best polarized reality. This is an access consciousness tune. In other words, they have the money, they have the relationship, they have all of these physical things. They want this to stay. It's just like drilling oil out of the ground for cars and such. Right. Nobody wants to change that system, and the oil companies don't want you to change that system.
Of course.
And of course, if you ask them, well, do you want to grow? And they'd probably say, yeah, I want to grow, but I just don't want to give up my, $1 million a year salary.
Right.
Like, so,
exactly.
So let's just make it clear. There's nobody that's like this evil bad guy. They're just self-interested people.
Of course. And
stuck in their brains.
Exactly. And that's like what we would call the lower form of sovereignty, where, it's my title, my job title, it's how much I get paid, it's where I live, that's what makes me powerful and sovereign. Again, it's a false lie, it's a maya, it's not the truth. Because that true authority comes from within.
I'd say that's independence, not sovereignty.
Right.
It's like, and that there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can be a very powerfully independent person and also sovereign, both. But
Yeah.
someone who maybe gives all their power over to their titles and their job and their outside, trappings, they're just as victim and powerless as the next person because they're giving it to the outer, trappings. What if those trappings go away? Then what? See, then they feel powerless. A divinely, sovereign person, whether you've got the trappings or not, you're still in your own divine authority. You haven't lost
Yes.
anything.
Yes. And you really start to think differently about what your priorities are.
Exactly.
You know, I love the author T. Harv Eckert. He wrote The
Yeah.
Millionaire Mind. You remember that book 20
Yes.
years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, and he says one of the principles of is like this is his definition of rich. He says when you have enough money that frees you up to where you have all of this time to create your own dreams and aspirations.
Right.
That's wealth. And that
Yes.
and that is a very much a sovereign wealth. Now, just to tell you
Exactly.
something about T. Harv,
Yeah.
I heard somebody go to his workshops after that book, and he goes, "Yeah, we were getting this piece of iron rhubarb, which just is like an iron bar that they put in concrete to
Oh,
give it
yeah.
stability, like a quarter-inch thick." He goes,
Yeah.
"You would put it between the two of you, you and this other person, and you would create the love between each other so strong that it would bend the rhubarb itself."
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking, wow, that is teaching a sovereign power that you are that powerful to bend rhubarb with your heart intention.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like
Yes.
wow.
Exactly. And a divinely sovereign person will always choose love over fear, will always choose the calmness over the chaos,
Yeah.
will always choose, you know, personal responsibility over blaming. And
So
that's an act of love. I mean, to be
that,
divinely
that,
sovereign
that,
is
that
to be in your divine love.
and why did they choose love over fear? I mean, I'm setting you up with a juicy question.
Why did the two people in the
No,
class with
whoever in general.
oh, why would you choose love over fear? Well,
Yeah,
I
because
usually tell my clients,
a lot of people
go
choose
ahead.
fear.
Yes, absolutely, they do. And that's unfortunate because fear, you're giving your power over to it. So when you give power over to fear, what do? You attract more of it. So
Yeah.
if you are wanting to get out of fear and not have fear follow you everywhere, then you have to choose from a place that is love, from a place that is not fear, at least from a neutral place. Maybe if you can't choose from love, but you can choose from neutral, that's way better. I tell my clients, look, if you choose anything in life out of fear, it's going to come back at you and it's going to keep teaching you the lesson of fear until you decide to choose from a different place, a more conscious place. Fear is kind of like a lower consciousness type of a choice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just where someone is in the moment. It's part of that continuum from shadow to, to gift to light. But the truth is we have to realize that when we choose from fear, we'll continue to learn the lessons around fear until we awaken enough to go, okay, I don't need to choose fear anymore. So
Yeah.
sometimes we
Yeah.
have to use it over and over until we learn.
Yeah. Any advice for people when they get into that fear place? I mean, right now everybody's talking, oh, well, the economy's really bad. And we start to live in this place of caution.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Uh, what do you think would be the advice you give somebody with that?
So the first thing that I will tell my clients who are caught up in that, they're caught up in all of the noise. of what's being said in the outer world about the economy, money, etc., the first thing that I tell them is stop listening to all of that. Like, turn off the social media, turn off the news, stop reading those things, because all it's doing is it's brainwashing you with a lot of distraction. So then you can't hear your own inner authority. You can't hear the truth within yourself when you're listening to all of this fear noise. That's what it is. It's just fear noise. Of course, right now there is a lot of shifting happening on the planet with systems, but that's
Mm-hmm.
part of this time. That's just part of what's going on right now as we're having to change out of an old way of being to a different, higher consciousness way of being. So, of course, you're going to see systems wobble, and some of them are going to dissolve, etc. That's just normal. But when you come from a place of fear around it, you're giving your power over, and then you're attracting more of that fear, and then you're continuing to panic. So the first thing is
Yes.
just stop reading and listening to that. That's the first thing you have to do. The next thing you have to do is you have to start having moments of stillness, like moments of quiet, to just go inwards and just take a break from all the noise in the outer world. Go for a walk, go into nature, just spend some time meditating, listening to high vibrational music, doing something that shifts your brain out of all that noise that you've been so used to, and then going into a more peaceful place inside yourself for a moment. That first off is going to calm your whole nervous system when you do that. And you're going to start to hear. You're going to start to hear some wisdom in you that's going to say, it's all going to be okay. Really, it's going to be okay. You might even get guidance. You might even hear, maybe it's time for you to leave this job and get a new one. Maybe it's time for you to move. You'll start getting guidance that's going to guide you in a new direction that's probably safer, in a new direction that probably will give you more abundance, because you're quiet, you're listening to the inner authority within you, versus that outer noise is just telling you, be scared, run. As long as
Mm-hmm.
you're listening to that, how can you make discerning decisions about your life? So you first have to switch it off. That's key. Then you have to go inwards and start listening, and then
So,
obey what you hear. follow follow the guidance.
follow. Fine. Yeah, yeah. I'd say follow and keep being curious and keep asking questions about it,
Exactly.
and follow that inside of yourself. I always find that when I ask questions, different types of thoughts appear that seem to come from my gut, or I get a flash of a vision or something, or a picture, and or my heart expands. I
Yes.
mean, there's all of these ways your body can signal you that, well, you got to pay attention with that. I don't think that any of it's absolute,
Right.
but it gives you the direction.
It does. And when
Yeah.
you feel your own inner authority, which is, that divine light that you are,
Hmm.
giving you guidance, like it's going to be okay, take a right turn here, let go of that, this particular job's toxic, let it go, this particular person is not most aligned for you. It's like when you start listening and actually following the guidance, all of a sudden your life starts to improve. The problem is most of us are afraid to listen to our higher guidance, which
Yeah.
is our divine sovereignty.
Well, it's so much about, I think, in our generation, and let's just say, the last how many years, I don't want to, 50, 60 years, we're always told to follow what our mother and fathers followed.
Right.
And I think for the last 20 years, we're starting to tell children, well, there's something inside of you you need to be listening to. You know,
Exactly.
what do you really want to do? You don't have to do what I do. All of these paradigms are always shifting, but for a lot of us, we're always saying, oh, I'm going to be leaving my ties behind to my parents, their belief systems. And
Yes.
that's scary for a lot of people.
Oh, of course. Yes. Because that's the comfort we've known, especially those of us, as you said, who come from a different era, you know. we were inculcated with and programmed with that belief system. And you know what? It worked. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It worked. But now we're shifting into a very different age, very
Oops, you blipped it.
different frequencies. They don't work anymore.
Hang on. The different frequency just showed up because everything kind of turned off for you. Uh, what I love about Linda is she's always laughing. Uh, so you said a different frequency is showing up. Am I still there? Are you there?
Going up on the planet. I'm here. It keeps
Okay.
going off and on. Maybe my frequency, I need to modulate it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's on your end. So I wanted, since we're kind of blipping around, I want to tell everybody we're at midpoint of the show, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. My name is Bart Sharp, and my guest today is Linda Galvan, and you can find her at www.lindagalvan.com, and that's LindaGalvan. And she has a lot of great stuff. She's a great counselor, psychic, healer, prophetic, teacher of many different classes. You know, what I always think was so funny about you was that, you know, you had this day job, you had a, you know, kid, probably
Yes.
12 years old at that time, and you just said, not doing it anymore.
Right.
I'm going to go out into this other world and make a living at it. And, you know, and of course you were single and totally on your own.
Yes.
And you always been able to invent this. And you were always saying, well, the answers always appear to me. You know, I know what to do next. I just have faith.
That's right. And that was scary. I mean, it took a lot of faith for me to jump out of the regular world, because I had an awakening where I realized I wanted to be my own authority. I didn't want to work for other people. I didn't want people telling me what to do, what time to show up, et cetera, because I had a young child and I needed to be there for her as a single mother. So I made the really big leap to say, I'm going to, you know, step into creating my own business. And at the time, I didn't know what it was going to be. I just had trust that somehow it's going to show up. And it did. Over time, it did. It started to unveil itself. But it required incredible amounts of trust for me to listen to the guidance that said, quit the job. And I did not have a job to go to at the time. So it was a big leap, and I'm so glad I did it, because 15 plus years later, here I still am. I do this work full time still. It wasn't easy in the beginning, but I just kept listening to the guidance and not listening to the fear. I mean, literally, I had to learn divine sovereignty way back then, that I can be sovereign over my life and create the life that works for me and my daughter. Had I not believed that, I would probably still be working, you know, for whoever and be unhappy. So I had to make that leap. But it did require me to listen and to then follow through with the guidance. And again, it was not easy. It was very scary, but I did it anyway. So talk about fear. You know, you feel it, acknowledge I was in fear, but I did it anyway. So yes, fear is part of the human experience. But again, are you going to give it power, or are you going to go, okay, I feel you fear, but I'm still going to do what my authority within me is telling me to do, regardless of what I'm feeling?
So question, how does your heart play into this?
So
or your heart chakra?
Yeah, so from a place of divine sovereignty, the energy is that my heart is aligned to the divine that created me. So that trust is coming from the love that I know that the divine has for me, and that the guidance that's being given to me is coming from a place of love. So when I listen to that guidance, it really is love guiding me. So really, in truth, it's all love. All of it. All of it's love. because I trust it from that place, not from here, but from it's a feeling in the heart, not in the head. It's not a head thing.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And in the vibration, the frequency and the power of it multiplies exponentially. I mean, I wish I could tell you that system to measure that in, but people who do measure it, it's something like the energetic power in your body increases anywhere from 100 to 1,000% bigger when you start working from the heart, which, in my estimation, the heart is the core entry if you're going to go into divine sovereign.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. You have to have a deep heart trust that everything was created in a way that comes from a place of love. So when you actually surrender your ego mind to the divine sovereign will, that's an act of love. I mean, truly, it's an act of love. It's not a mental thing. It's like saying, you know what, I trust and love the divine that created me enough that I'm going to trust that will and I'm going to follow that. And
Yeah,
that's not a mind thing. That is absolutely a surrender from heart. It's like my heart is surrendering to it.
indeed. And that's the internal journey.
Yes.
How does it affect the world?
So as an individual, okay, so I can speak from the individual perspective, is that when it comes to me choosing to be in my authority, my divine sovereignty, and not listening to the outer noise and the fear and all that's going on, I'm not pulled right and left and upset by all the things going on in the outer world, by all these political figures and everything. I could care less. It's irrelevant to me. So I don't get pulled by all of that. I don't let my emotions be controlled by whatever antics are going on in the political world or arena. I allow myself to stay focused on creating the life that I want to create, that's filled with creativity, with joy, with happiness. It's not always perfect. Of course, there's going to be, your ups and your downs. We're living in a human world where we're going to have challenges. But even though those challenges show up, again, I don't blame anything. I just like, okay, there's the challenge and I'll get over it and I'll keep going. So I don't allow my emotions to get pulled all over the place by whatever's going on in the outer world. So it creates a stability in me. And then I have more energy to focus on what is important to me, which for me, it's creating, it's enjoying my life, it's having, good times with friends and family, things along those lines, and not, stopping that experience just because people in the outer world are making, ridiculous decisions. I don't let that bother me. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, well, whatever.
it,
I don't
it,
get pulled by it.
it's so true. I mean, when we go into the future and the fears, and we're going against things that are so big that we do not have a direct way to affect it. I think that's I think what people have their biggest fears about.
Hmm.
And with divine sovereignty, you're saying, "Oh no, I have a very powerful indirect way to affect it."
Exactly.
And it works really well.
It does. And the more people that come together in that energy, oh my gosh. I mean, as you said, the power is exponential. So it only takes a small critical mass of people in their divine sovereignty to actually shift an entire collective. So we're in the process of that. That's why for me, divine sovereignty is one of my messages I've been giving for probably 10 years now. I know it's become like a term in the metaphysical world recently, but this has been coming through in channelings for 10 plus years with me and my clients. So
Yeah,
I've been preaching this a long time.
yeah, and it's interesting to watch people who use that coin. They coined that phrase, divine sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I look at, well, what are the characteristics of somebody that I know has it. They really have it. It's just not a word that they're saying. Because a lot of people, they say they're these things and they're on the path and they want to be there.
Right.
However, let's just look about what that is. I mean, to me, it's like those people, they have this internal happiness is one quality.
Exactly.
They're relaxed. Uh,
Exactly.
uh, Maybe they're when they do get something that they go, oh, that's me. And I've been doing this France tour business for 11 years. And the
Yes.
divine sovereign message I always get is like, keep doing the tours. It's really
Exactly.
simple. I feel real happy when I do it, and I feel happy about the idea of doing it. And
Exactly.
therefore, I do it, and it attracts. It works,
Of course. Because
you
you're
know?
listening to your divine sovereignty, which wants to be creative in the world. And so these tours to France that you're offering to people, they're a very creative heart endeavor. It's a gift you're giving. And so you're not letting the outer world stop you from offering this creative, you know, this creative work to the world, to those who want to be part of these tours. If you know, because you've done it even through COVID, etc. You didn't
Yeah,
let the outer world take your power away. You know, you're not telling yourself, well, I can't do this anymore because of the economy. You're continuing to be in your creative divine sovereignty, creating the life that makes you happy, and also letting people have a taste of that when they go on their tours with you.
it's a huge power, whatever the business that you're doing, that
Yes.
that if it is something you truly enjoy,
Right.
uh, that makes it work. And even if you let's just say you're doing something that you're 60% happy with it. A lot of times you're in that boat, you know. You're
Right, of course.
60% happy. You don't like getting up early or you don't like the long hours. But there's a lot
Right.
of parts of your work that, you really like. So if you're in that boat and you're deciding I'm sticking it out, what advice would you give people? Like, how do you create that reality that either fills in the blanks or helps you become happier in that 60% solution? Or that makes sense?
Kind of. I think I can just speak for me, um, that when I am choosing to be creative and it's coming from my heart, and I feel very uplifted and I feel very elevated when I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing in my work. You're right. There's going to be certain aspects of the work that are like, don't really like that part. But I'm focused more on the elevation. Like it makes me feel good when I offer this, class, or whenever I offer these transmissions on new moons and full moons, or whenever I do my one-on-one work with people and I see how it's changing their life. That's very uplifting for me. Yes, there's
Yes.
aspects of our regular life that are not so much fun, but I don't focus on that. I put my focus on that which elevates me, and that's where I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of that. So if only 60% of the time I'm elevated and happy, wow. That's even if it was 50% of the time, I think that's great.
Yeah, yeah, it keeps working, if you keep that focus right there
Yeah.
in it. I always think about whenever I do a private session with somebody, I do shamanic work, right before the session, I, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Maybe they'll cancel. And it's just a little mind thing that's going on. But I
Right.
realize what's happening. It's kind of like getting ready to run 5 miles.
Right.
And you're going to have to pull all of this intensity together to start that path, start your
Exactly.
running or start the session. And it's never comfortable. But
Right.
yet, once you start,
Oh yeah.
it's joyful,
Right. Because the
you know.
momentum begins, and then it just kind of takes you, and you don't even have to put any effort
Uh,
into it. It's that
yeah, I don't.
beginning step.
It is
I
the
think,
brain.
in truth, for all humans, that's the hard part.
The brain doesn't like hardness. It likes predictability. Uh, patterns that it's done over and over again. It lacks efficiency. And we
Exactly.
need our brain to work and to stretch out into these places. And the body doesn't always like to. Just a little tidbit of
Exactly.
my own little wisdom with that. So another question, because this is I'm going to enjoy asking this one because we're coming up to family holidays. You know, all over
Yes.
the world, November, December, and into January, family holidays, family events, and basically, not everybody gets along. Any any guidance you can give people?
Right.
Boy, I'm asking some good, tricky
So
questions, aren't I?
this is the time when you absolutely, yeah, I know, this is great. This is when you absolutely need to own your power, your divine sovereignty, because the minute you step into the field of your family, you literally are stepping back in time to when you were 15 or before you left home. And all of those old patterns that you've known from your family system, they start to get triggered. So if your father always irritates you when he tells that stupid joke, if your mother always irritates you because, she does this certain thing at the holidays, what you're doing by allowing yourself to get irritated is you're basically blaming them for being who they are. You're judging them. And the minute you do that, you've given your power away. And then you start to react to them. And then at that point, forget it. There is no divine sovereignty. You've just now sunk back into age 12 or age 10 or whatever age, because you're allowing yourself to judge where people are in their expression as humans. Your mother's going to be who she is. Your brother, your sister, they're going to be who they are. So your job is to let go of the need to try to control them and wish they were different. This is where, if we can just unhook this wish that we wished our family was different than the way it is, if we would let that go, we could stay in our power. So let your brother be the idiot. Let your sister be, whatever. Let your mother, your father be who they are. You just authentically be there. You step back, you observe, maybe just observe it as an interesting little tragicomedy. Don't get pulled into it. Instead, go, well, this is interesting. And that's what I do. I just step back and I just watch the whole play just happen in front of me without getting engaged and get pulled in. The minute you get pulled into it and you start judging, you've lost your power. So your job is to be the observer, to stay in your center, to breathe, to step out of the room when you need to not engage or catch yourself when you're judging. Like, stop. Just tell yourself, stop judging your mother. Stop. I have to tell myself, just stop doing that. And then I just watch. And then I don't get pulled in. And then it's like, okay, that was an interesting little circus. Okay. Next year, we'll see what it's like.
And so the mind relaxes and the heart opens in a situation like that.
Exactly, because you're not judging. You're just letting it play itself out, and you're just being curious. I like that word, curious. Just be curious. Just sit there and just watch and be curious about all the dynamics going on, and going, wow, in the past I would get involved in that and get upset, but I'm just watching it now. And then you can be proud of yourself for not getting involved in the drama and just watching it all and just enjoying it. Like, literally just let it be just an enjoyable little comedy for yourself without getting involved.
It can be a really self-gratifying thing, because when you start to detach, it's like you're looking at yourself going, oh, I'm not playing those games anymore.
Exactly.
And I don't have that weight on me anymore.
Yes.
This is kind of fun.
That's it.
And it's not revenge. It's love, actually, because you're going, oh, I'm the different child, but yet I can give everybody love without any expectation.
That's right.
Because you ain't changing them unless they want to change.
Exactly. So by you just having an open heart, as you said, and just allowing it to be what it is, let everybody be who they are. And then, somebody says something and you just unhook you're just like, you know what? They're just being who they are. I'm not gonna take the bait.
Mm,
You'll start to feel very powerful. Like
yes,
internally, you'll start to feel very powerful and you'll be like, wow, I can do this. But I mean, it's a practice. It's definitely a
it
practice.
it is. May your space be wide, big, and grand inside in the holidays.
Hmm.
And you are listening to Linda Galvan, LindaGalvan, and it'd be at lindagalvan.com. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 103.5. Linda, tell us about some of your projects you're doing, and what's going on in
Oh,
your business, and what do you got out to the world so people can come see you?
absolutely. Well, every new moon and every full moon, I do a free transmission of light. So if you go to my website, lindagalvan.com, fill out the little form with your email and just say, add me to your announcement list, you'll get an announcement of when I do the new moon and the full moon transmissions. And they're free to just call in and listen. And every single time you call in, you're going to receive a download of light codes that will support you on your journey. So that's something I've been doing for years now. And so I have a lot of people that love to just jump on and listen. If you're not able to make the live, you can always offer a donation and get the replay. I'm also going to be doing a class on divine sovereignty. So if for some reason you miss the class, which is happening this Sunday, you can always reach out and say, I'd like to have a replay copy of that class, and I can send that to you. I'm doing classes all the time. I'm doing a class right now on actually Gene Key 55 on
Hmm.
the journey of liberation. It's a 4-week class. I'm going to be doing a lot more work with the Gene Keys in the new year. So for those of you that are interested in learning more about that, again, you just go to my website, fill out the form, let me know that you want to be added to my announcement list, and you'll get all the things that I'm offering.
That sounds wonderful. And Linda has been doing this for, God, such an adventure to watch you over the years. And it's always a pleasure to have you here. And now you're in Austin, Texas.
Yes,
You also do individual consultations as
absolutely.
well.
I do.
We have
I do good work.
we have 1 minute left. Is there any tidbit of wisdom that you'd have that you want to impart with everybody?
I think I would say that when we step into our divine sovereignty that we have been born with, which you can find deep in your heart, it's just a knowing that you know that you are a divinely sovereign being, automatically happiness will begin to visit your life and you'll become a much more creative person. So I just invite everyone to just open your heart and say, I call in divine sovereignty, and let's see what happens.
That sounds wonderful advice. And go check out Linda Galvan. And thank you, everybody, for being part of Becoming Quantum Conscious. I am Bart Sharp, and next week we have Natalia Dunn on womb wisdom. So it's going to be fun getting into all the womb energy stuff. Kind of matches this one in some way. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks again, Linda, for being on the show.
Yes, thank you, Bart, for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure. Bye
Bye.
bye, everybody.